Let's give Mariah a warm round of applause.
Hello, how many of you have ever seen a SeaWorld commercial? Hands? How many of you have ever been to SeaWorld? Okay, the majority of us. I loved SeaWorld as a child. It was my favorite place to go. Shamu was my guy. Have a little souvenir bowl, have Shamu, filled with Dippin' Dots, so excited when I got it. And then, a couple of months ago, I watched the documentary, I don't know what lake, Blackfish. And it changed my whole perspective on what SeaWorld is and what it means to be an orca in SeaWorld. So, today I'm going to talk to you about the three main things. Captivity, mistreatment leading to stress, and stress leading to death. So afterwards you can decide, is it SeaWorld or Slave World? So, real quick I'm going to talk about orcas. They are very emotional and social beings. They live in groups of a lot of orcas within their close-knit family. They communicate on a different level. And within each group they speak a certain language. Other orca groups don't have the same kind of language with them, and they can't connect with them emotionally or socially. So, in around 1960s is when orca hunting became really popular, especially to send the orcas to SeaWorld. And they would take the orcas away from their family. They would just pick the one they could grab, and they would take it and they would transport it to SeaWorld, or any other amusement, or any other water park like SeaWorld. And then they would put it in another tank with another orca who couldn't speak its certain dialect and couldn't connect with it socially and emotionally. They were forced to move from their vast ocean home to an enclosure that's depth was maybe about 40 feet, sometimes a little larger, but not really. So the main thing is that when they're in these small enclosures, they suffer socially because of the language barriers, because they can't connect with their trainers, and especially they can't connect with their orcas. And to really survive for an orca, they have to have social interaction with other orcas. Some things I want to talk about is some stress-induced habits that orcas gain while living in these enclosures. They will start to rack their teeth on the cages, which causes these big sores and ulcers on their chins and everything. They tend to rack themselves on other orcas because they can't talk to them, and they have no way of communicating with them on anger, or they can't tell if they're happy or not. So they just use anger and to talk to each other, basically. And then another thing is collapsed dorsal fins. Orcas in the wild, in captivity, all male orcas have collapsed dorsal fins as adults. SeaWorld claims that this condition is common and natural for all orcas. However, collapsed dorsal fins are caused by the unnatural environment of captivity and are rarely seen in the wild. Only 1 to 5% of male orcas in some populations and none in others have fully collapsed dorsal fins. This is stated by www.seaworldofhurt.com. And I just think that's really tragic that all orcas in captivity have collapsed dorsal fins when the highest number in the wild is 5%. 5% of orcas only have collapsed dorsal fins in the wild, when all have them in captivity. Another thing is rape. This is a very, very strong word to use, I know, but I think that when you force someone to give you their sperm and inject it into another orca, that this is rape. They teach the male orcas to lay on their back, and they masturbate them to get the sperm. Yes, whale. And then they take orcas that are not fully mature. Orcas mature at the age of 15, and they will take orcas as young as 6. This is like taking a little girl and forcing her to get pregnant. Now, another thing that happens is there's been some big controversy a couple years ago because of the SeaWorld tragedies with the trainers dying and being attacked by the orcas. The orcas have no way, like I said, to socially or emotionally connect with these trainers because they don't talk to them, they don't connect and speak the same way. So a couple of years ago, in one particular incident, there is an orca, and they state this in this Blackfish movie, named Tillicum, and he takes one of his trainers and grabs it by its foot and pulls it down in the water, lets it back up. Pulls it down in the water and lets it back up, causing the trainer to drown and die. Now, the researchers have looked at this in different ways, and in the movie Blackfish, they talk about how he could have been playing, he could have been trying to communicate that he was stressed and anything. So this particular whale I'm talking about, Tilikum, was one of the first whales to be taken from the wild into captivity. And he was forced into small quarters with 2 aggressive orcas who had been there for a while. And he was young, so from a young age he was taught to be aggressive. He was taught to live with these 2 female orcas. And his only way of communication with them was aggression. And now they use his sperm to inject like most of the SeaWorld animals. And when an orca shows aggressive behavior, you don't want them to reproduce because this trait passes on. So, and then I think it was around 1970, orcas were no longer allowed to be hunted. So this is why they inject the female orcas with the semen, because they have to reproduce within they have to reproduce within SeaWorld. They have to use the orcas they have. Oh, the average lifespan in the wild is 30 to 50 years, and in captivity, it's much less. Of the 160 captive killer whales that have died, more than 70% didn't make it beyond 10 years in captivity. Just 32 orcas survived more than 20 years in captivity. This is by www.orcahome.com. And that's the saddest thing that I found while doing my research, that their lifespan can double 50. Female orcas can live up to 100 years in the wild. And the fact that out of 160 of them, 32 only survived 20 years. That's... Sorry, I've stopped.
Questions?
Yes.
Mariah, you're very passionate about this. I almost thought you was crying for a second.
Well, it's so sad.
Yes, I can tell.
The saddest... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that would be the next thing, you know. I know you didn't get to finish all, but what is the saddest thing about this whole ordeal with the orcas?
The saddest thing I saw was a video while they were capturing orcas, doing their hunting. There was a mother whale and her baby, and they took the baby because they want babies. And they took the baby and they captured him, and you can just hear the mother making these vocal sounds like she was crying. Just screaming out the whole time they're taking him. Yes.
What's your major?
Education.
No, I think we would think you should. You're very passionate about it. I feel it's more than if you're a marine biologist.
Right.
It's like animals. They're so cute. I just don't think you could treat anything like that. I mean, the fact that we're taking these animals and we're forcing them to perform for us for our own, I mean, what we call it, SeaWorld calls it our own knowledge. We're learning about them, but it's for our own entertainment. It's sad. Any other questions? Yes.
When did you first find out about this ordeal?
A couple, I guess it was around December when I watched Blackfish on Netflix. And then I watched it 3 times. Prior to it.
What is it called?
Blackfish,
Blackfish?
which is another name for an orca, which is a killer whale.
Is that a documentary or a movie?
Documentary. It's about SeaWorld. Yes.
I was wondering if my sister's 15 and she's crazy about animals. She literally owns 10 of them, ranging from sugar gliders to leopard geckos to a hedgehog. And like she has so much stuff, I can't keep up with it. But she's really, really passionate, and she's the same thing. She watched the Blackfish documentary, and she's like, if I even mention it, like if I say I'm going to San Antonio, she's like, you know, there's a SeaWorld there, right? So I was wondering if you have any animals of your own, and if watching the documentary has affected, I guess, how you view, not trying to imply that you didn't care about them, but if it really changed your perspective
My
in that
cat
sense.
was an outside cat, now it lives inside.
Look nice to you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, after watching Blackfish, what are your views on SeaWorld as a whole?
SeaWorld freaking sucks. Sorry, excuse me. But it's so like, oh yeah, excuse the language. It's not just orcas in this tree. I mean, there was an incident while I was Googling this about a seal dying because their closures are not up to code. So, I mean, it's not just the orcas, that's just their main entertainment.
So should we do away with all SeaWorlds? Do we not capture
We
animals for
shouldn't capture them.
entertainment? Or should we close all SeaWorlds down?
I wrote an essay about this, and I said that we should leave, because SeaWorld states that we capture these animals so we can learn about them. I think that we should let it be a mystery. I mean, it's not our job to understand them. It's not their job to understand us. Yes.
2 questions. Did you throw away your SeaWorld souvenirs?
No, I stole it. He stole it from me.
And how do you feel about circuses? Because if I mention the words Barnum and Bailey, my sister goes off on me.
I don't know.
I've heard the mistreatment in circuses is kind of equivalent to SeaWorld, especially with the elephants and the
Mhm.
tigers.
And I've heard about some of that, and I've heard about how they even mistreat their workers and everything, because it's kind of a life contract once you sign. And so I guess I could feel equally the same about it. I just haven't done as much research. Any other questions?
I just want to say I do not mistreat my freaks.
I was going to ask
I
Chris.
do not kidnap them and take them from their mother.
Sorry.
And the term is an affectionate. It's an affectionate term, right?
So Ken,
Affectionate term, freak.
I don't think it's as bad as it was back.
We are not the freaks. The freaks are out there.